Hey everyone, welcome back to Data and Donuts. My name is Aaron. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Ryan Fuller. We're here today to talk about utilizing a variety of data types and sizes of data. And before we do that, I would like Ryan to tell us a little bit about himself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Fuller. I've been doing data specifically around education, higher ed. I've done a little bit of K-12. I've been doing this now for, almost 15 years. Started my career out at the California Post-Secondary Education Commission. I've worked at the Community College's Chancellor's Office. I've worked at the California Department of Ed, and currently I've been at the California Student Aid Commission. It's been about a year now. So yeah, things are going well.
Excellent. So we're just going to jump into the interview. And so just based on your experience and working with these large entities, you come across tons and tons of like mega data is what I like to call it. And so when you're dealing with mega data, what type of tools or approaches do you use to handle that type of data?
You know, a lot of the mega data that I've worked with, I've been lucky enough to work with data sets that have been structured usually around SQL. So a lot of the times, when I first started working with data, I learned how to, my first thing was to program with SQL. And so I learned raw SQL and being able to extract the data. And it seemed like with a lot of these large systems, that was like the first key, was being able to really, find any documentation on the system, kind of find out how the system is built. Luckily, most of these have been relational data systems, but there's been things that I've worked with that have not been, and really try to understand what you're working with before you really dig down. And then, the really powerful tool is going to be, SQL, and being able to extract that. I'm also a SAS user. I've been lucky enough to use that most of my career. So that's been very helpful for me. SAS allows you to write SQL within SAS. So that's kind of 80–90% of the extracts and manipulation that I do usually happens within SAS using SQL. And then from there, you can kind of go at it with, any type of analysis that you want to work with. SAS is good for that. R is another good tool, although I don't have much of a background in R, but if I was somewhere where SAS wasn't a possibility, because the SAS license is fairly prohibitively expensive. Most of the places I've been at have been state of California locations, so they have a centralized license. But R is also a very good tool for doing that. It's cost effective and open source, and it's I recommend that for folks too if they're really wanting to dig into some of these large data sets.
Awesome. And so as you're talking about relational databases and bringing multiple different pieces of data together, what should individuals consider when doing that? I think you touched on it a little bit, but maybe you want to go a little bit deeper.
I guess that one of the big things to consider is, just really digging into the documentation and knowing what you're looking at. It can be difficult to work with something if you don't know how to do, if you're joining large tables or something, you don't want to, do something that you're unintentional, or, something that it's just not going to work in your favor if you were trying to work with multiple data sets and you don't really know how these things interact with each other. And so you have to be able to know what variables to join on. Because sometimes if there's a large data sets you're joining, it's going to take a long time to do joins. Although in recent, as we get better computing power and more RAM, more faster processors, it's not as much of a concern, but there's still efficiency issues that you'd want to consider when joining up large data sets. And the documentation is always going to be your friend if there is, assuming there is good documentation.
Most definitely. I completely agree, especially when thinking about, am I bringing together like continuous data? Am I trying to blend like numerical data with non-numerical data? Like understanding those aspects, that's a key point. And then, like you said, doing your research, I really feel that that's the key component to understand both structures before just trying to link up words that match. So, and I think really the final question I have is, working across a variety of these organizations, could you think about one of the projects you've worked on that you're most proud of?
That's a tough one. And I think about this, probably maybe not one of the ones I'm most proud of, but one of the ones, the first one that I was really proud of was during my time at the California Post-Secondary Education Commission. This was pretty early on, maybe 2008, 2009. We were creating new kind of, we couldn't create dashboards. There wasn't a lot of good technology there around, creating kind of time series dashboards, things like that, mapping, but we wanted to create college going rates. And one of the things we did is we used mapping software to map out all of the different assembly and Senate districts, and use kind of data from all of the segmental offices, and kind of blend it together with K-12 data to calculate college going rates for all of the different districts. And so we would create these detailed maps with all of the schools and data points with, the rates for each of the segments. And then we'd print these things out on large poster board paper, and we'd go over across the street and walk them over to all of the offices. And it was just a fun project. There wasn't a lot of that going on at the time. It was kind of fairly limited in what we could do, but the printing aspect, it was nice to be able to take something, and the folks over, the ledge staff really appreciated it to get these different college going rate maps, because I imagine it was something a lot of people hadn't seen at the time, and it was just a really cool way to visualize data. It was a lot of fun.
That is cool. It's really trying to bring visualization together along with your infographic styles to really tell a story, just a snapshot, but there's so much data there, but everybody can bring back and actually see something different in that. So that's really cool. And I think that's where a lot of us are trying to go, is how do we tell that story? It sounds like your guys are doing that well over a decade plus ago, and just really setting the stage for that. So that's super cool. And so now we're thinking about my two final bonus questions. So the first question is how do you pronounce data? So some people say data, some people say data, some people say data. What do you say?
I say data. I think that data, is it it's a British thing or something? I don't know.
I don't know.
I find myself using it interchangeably sometimes. If someone else uses it, sometimes I'll pick it up. But
exactly, you don't want to say it's actually data. No, that's a good point. Cool. And so my final question is, what's your favorite donut?
My go-to is old-fashioned chocolate. It's old-fashioned anything if I can find that, but if I can find chocolate, that's definitely my go-to.
Excellent choice. Well, cool. Well, thanks so much for hanging out today and chatting about this. And thank you everybody for watching. Please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you all later. Thanks again, Ryan.